Trees fell down? No, a tree did fall down. Tree did, like a branch fell down. A lot of trees falling down. Huh? A lot of trees, you know.
Yeah, that's it.
What do you want to take?
For Indy, not problem. Now, if we don't get started, there'll be no arriving. Shall we start? Jumbo, Jonde, Jumbo, Jumbo, Yana, Zobe, Sangi, Reva, Jabu, Demba, Devo, Jumbo, Jiden, Jumbo, Jibu, Halo, Juba, Lana, Meba, Lada, Mena, Jumbo, Sanji, Jumde, Beja, Shaja, Kuba, Chaza, Judu, Jazu, Jumbo, Jumde, Rajombo, Yanda, Zobe, Sanji, Reva, Shaku, Demba, Demba, Jidin, Jimbo, Jibu, Jumba, Sanji, Jumde, Yebe, Yawa, Shaya, Kuwa, Yugu, Jago, Jeru, Udumbo, Jumde, Deshin, Shaba, Rajum, Yanda, Zobe, Sanji, Boda, Shaku, Devara, Jeba, Jidin, Jimbo, Jibu, Kalu, Yuba, Lana, Neba, Nenon, Jumbo, Sanji, Johnny, Bejawa, Shaya, Kuba, Chate, Mujud, Yalu, Ante Kanye, Zo, Judande, Sajen, Deva, Gomba, Tum, Rane, Jedin, Dena, Jesu, Deze, Jeva, Azelo, Nanda, Gon, Judu, Sudu, Yeshe, Gasu, Sevye, Lumu, Nabo, Jedin, Sunam, Bo, Judu, Sejon, Deva, Zime, David, Sembo, Raga, Jana, Seba, Sumaje, Yamen, Kini, Jala, Bombo, Tuji, Jenaba, Tanje, Kebe, Tamba, Sana, Yene, Yazo, Jin, Jala, Tafu, Dabe, Gaja, Jawa, Gil, Gil, Itu dana jiwa, jiwa, bana bana, jaya dama yage, Eva Jia Meja Eva Brusu Rangi Zene Yoro Rangi Dena Karma Dena Yuma Sepa Mela Ludan Jenda Duje Chuna Dita Rana De Banje Siva Ye Bobo Dene Dade Rada Nada Chive Vatule Sive Zole Rova the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyers, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakti clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When the supreme among humans who were born on this earth, he paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you, who are wise, then I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With a supreme sign, faith like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, 3 worlds are none. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. An illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Do these merits of sentient beings, attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the pole of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of age and sickness and death.
Baba Gunjo Sutta Begin Dagi Toba Duje Na Sungende Gyogu Jangu Homo Jumla Gelon Ge Gele Jimbo Anju Sembe Gende Jimbo Da Tap Chi Tu Shude De Tse Jomden De Samo Nawa Shi Jawe Chugi Namrangi Tinge Zena Nyombara Shuzo Ya Di Tse Janju Semba Semba Chiong Baba Chirisi Wanchuk Sherabji Parudu Chemba Sama Cheba Nila Nambar Tashi Kumbo Mabo Deta Rashinji Tomba Nambar Tao Dene Sanji Gitu Sedan Demba Sharibu Janjo Semba Semba Chembo Baba Chirisi Wanchuk La Tigi Chemeso Viji Pu Kangala Sherabji Parudu Chemba Samo Cheba Cheba Deba De Jita Lambarata Ngalabata Gede Meba Dang Taru Zamba Zamba Jembo Baba Cheles Onju Ki Sedan Demba Sharada De Pula Ige Jemeso Sharibu Rigi Mom Rigi Bomo Kalala Sherabki Parudu Chem Samo Cheba Cheba Deba De Itar Nambarata Warajade Umboma Bote Dalayang Chenje Tomba Nambara Yanda Jesu Tao Su Tomba Tomba Ni Suso Bule Tomba Ni Shema Ye Tomba Nile Kyan Su Shen Ma Ye Ejendo Sorvada, Dujidan, Dujidan, Nambara Sheba, Natomba, Sharebu, Tedarshu, Tamje, Tomba, Nide, Sinimeva, Majeva, Magaba, Tima Meva, Tima Dan Chewa, Chewa Meva, Kama Meva, Sharebu, Tedawena, Tomba, Nila, Sume, Tora, Me, Dujime, Dujiname, Nambara Sheba, Me, Mime, Nawa, Me, Tame, Cheme, Lume, Ime, Lume, Tame, Chime, Rome, Rekame, Chume, Do, Nigi, Kame, Bane, Igi, Kame, Igi, Nambara Shebe, Kanji, Badu, Yame, Do, Mariba, Me, Mariba, Seba, Meba, Nekashime, Kashi, Sebe, Badu, Yame, Do, Ejinu, Duma, Bada, Kunjuma, Bodan lame yeshime toba me matoba yang edo şeribu Nedavena cancu semba toba me beçir şeragi barudu cembala tenci nede semba ceba mecin raba mede çinci lole şindu dene Yangele debe tarı çindu dözondu nambara şube sange tamce e barudu cembala dene lana me Yanda zobe chanju, ombara zoba san yeso, te dawa na shelam ke baru de jimbe ma, te ba jimbe ma, lana mebe ma, minya bada nyambe ma, tunge tamje rabdu shivar shive ma, minzu vena tembar shivar chate shelam ke baru de jimbe ma, meba taya ta, gade gade para sangate bodhe yedo. Janju semba 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 meda sheruge paru samola purjao dene chomdinge tinge zendele shende janju semba semba sembo papa chere se wanchu la de so she chawa chene leso leso rige ku Dede shimo dede shinte chidra kyuchi temba shindu shirage paru du jimba samola chebara chade deshin sheba namjang jesu yirang Chonde deje deje ka tsene sedan temba shari dade budan janju semba semba shimbo kaba chire se wanchu dan tamje dan tembe koru te da dan la dan me dan lama yin dan desa chebe chedin yiran de chonde deje sumba la para tu
Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with the great assembly of monks and Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena, called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom Gambhira, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, how should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom Gambhira? Thus he spoke, then the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, O Shariputra, whatever silent father of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom Gambhira, should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is no other than form. No in the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes, no feeling spheres of the mind. There are none of these, all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these, all the way up to there is no old age and death. the destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all bodhisattvas all to the wisdom gone beyond, and because there is no obscurity, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas as well, 3 times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awakened to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of greatest, the unequaled and unsurpassed, the mantra that call suffering should be known as the truth, where there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed. Oh, Shariputra, this is our Bodhisattva. Boddhisattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble love of Krishna. The Bodhisattva Mahasattva saying, very good, the son of good family is exactly like them. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said. And then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble level of Krishna, the whole gathering, the world with God, men and the God of the Spirit, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. So many noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom gone beyond.
사고고 아니 다 장육선배 저벌러라비다 아니 이라베 치들었다 이게 준주부터 시작하고 여러서는 저벌 주바세다 또 주게 됐다 그게 럽사기 시디 딱 하나 또디 장죽스도 산지기 고마지 다 텔러 로버체 장죽 선발만 지다 로버나지 안 배체는랑게 로버체바 어딜다 저벌 주바스를 내지 삼로단 당이 냠슬랑 거래서.
Now we resume our Thursday evening instruction in the way of the Bodhisattva. It is a training for entering the way, the conduct of the heirs to the Buddha. One enters into, one comes into the practice of, in the main, that which gives rise to Bodhicitta, mind of enlightenment, and ultimately enlightenment itself, Buddhahood. Now, each one themselves will engage as the heirs to the Buddha have, practice just as the Bodhisattvas have.
아니 이제 조화다 무시다 죽숨고는 로버치고레스 제단다 조화디 아니 조화 양라 뒤지고는 장주심 깨버 쳐봐 조화지 다 장주심 깨버라 때는 아니 냠줄랑 미고메베 셈비 조무시 냠줄랑 미고메 미미선 동반이 서로 미미에서 미고메베 아니 라신 로버 노시 냠줄랑 봐 어디데 냠줄랑 봐 내라기 줄라 깨버 쳐봐디 마마냐고 권도 배워 쳐베니 뭐 어디 내시는 뭐 종을 조준 주고는 로버치고레스.
So a training involves the preliminary and the actual instance, its instantiation and practice, and the conclusion. So these three, preliminary, the instance of practice, and the conclusion, are involved. The preliminaries are 6 preliminary rites, and they are for the purpose of developing the mind of enlightenment where it has yet to arise. Then when it has arisen, the meditation is sustained through non-referential meditation. Non-referential meditation is emptiness, isn't it? And this is the actual instance of practice. And where the mind of enlightenment has arisen, that it not ever decline, one practices dedication and conclusion.
류니버가 가서 개진 아니 디과 자주심 껴와라 개진 세고요 세와라 디과 장고 류 샤베 류 세상을 그런데 류 수박 가서라 튠진 소소바 소사야 그 양아 디과 어디게 뜻이 제가 가들라는 안 그거요 그래서
The first three chapters of the Bodhicitta, the way of the Bodhisattva, are first the chapter to develop an interest and enthusiasm for the mind of enlightenment. That is a description of the qualities and beneficial qualities of the mind of enlightenment. The second chapter is involved with the elimination of that which obstructs or prevents the mind of enlightenment from arising. So it is a confession and elimination of that which hinders the mind of enlightenment. The third chapter brings together supportive conditions for the development of the mind of enlightenment. It is the accumulation of merit and that which supports the mind of enlightenment.
Oh, yeah, that's the 아무 장주 시스템 자세 장주 생각을 저벌로 롬들이 좋아하고 줄줄이 거래 비용하지도 루당보다 좋아시 편시해 버려. 루 대대 장주 시스템이 줄을 깨버려 개개만 보여 개개 개마주야겠다 배들. 가라도 생기지라 바자다 니모 숙청보 유도 되도 봤어야 제하고 세다비 차시 받으라니 디바 샤바디 도시 샤베를 보이시. 달루 수박가도라다 튕긴 난 장주 시스템 줄을 깨버려 유 가르가르고 오려래. 걔는 유 가르고 유메디 시에는 다 장주 시스템 맞게버 깨버리고 유도 세기요 해서.
Now, in short, then, the first chapter is concerned with developing enthusiasm for the mind of enlightenment through the description of the benefits of the mind of enlightenment, so that one has energetic discipline and zeal for the practice. The second chapter is concerned with the elimination of all that prevents the mind of enlightenment from arising in the first place. Karmic latencies, klesha. These are confessed to so that they may be eliminated. And the third chapter develops the mind of enlightenment where it hasn't arisen through drawing together the causes and conditions. Many causes and conditions are required for its development. So these are drawn together through description in the third chapter.
Oh, yeah, that's in an Italian Casulata, Twin Saba Seatilla, and with the Jesuiran Shepherd, Jesuiran Tilaya, Ribasum Shepherd. The chicken song to mail the Tarnet. Only Tanji came but a tablet to you want to the Nyele, Pobek Jula Jesuiran was chick. And it in a young, you but let you would drink it, Lamgi Loja had a tarbat of Jula Jesuiran was. And it's about the Lana maybe subject Jula Jesuiran was or the Jesuiran soon the song of resonance. Jesuiran Ramdin Tasum.
In the third chapter, concerned with drawing together supportive conditions for the development of the mind of enlightenment, one begins those accumulated conditions through rejoicing. Rejoicing itself is of three kinds. Rejoicing, that is rejoicing in mere liberation from the lower realms, the lowest scope, liberation from cyclic existence generally, rejoicing in the middle scope, and then supreme of all, liberation from cyclic existence and the achievement of Buddhahood itself, rejoicing in this. These are three forms of rejoicing.
That's just Iran Chicoya, Kinziti, Naz Yamne Chemi, that Tobia, you, Chungshu want to Tamiko Mare. That Tilites Yaga, Tinga the stop was enough, Tabata Vedre. That way, one is Karesna, Lana Mebichan, you sends the Sanji Kobanda, the Dichane, Tobjasum Yuva, Tobjasum la Jesuira, some the Shiva.
In practice, there are three results in which one may rejoice. The most limited result in which one may rejoice is the limited achievement of birth as a human being or a heavenly being, which is liberation from the lower realms alone. Middling significance is liberation from cyclic existence generally. One may rejoice in this as well. But finally, rejoicing in unsurpassed achievement of Buddhahood. This is rejoicing in Dharma of greatest scope.
다 제수 이란 산다 그런 것도 들다 몸에 그나로 전화와 최저 콜로코 꾸바 생긴다 나도 말한절라 가르쳐 버려서나 다 그리고 줄라 남고 또봐 다 톨람데 람덴다 고den이 줄라 깨버려 채라 아니 가르쳐도 최저 콜로도 콜네 랑이 줄라 최저 콜로도 콜네 아니 랑이 줄이 이모세 여 두치고로 와 어디 제발 채라 아니 최저 최 콜로코니 최고로 대저 콜레라 아니 최저 콜로 나와서 또 왔다 보고요 어디 답에 시기요 있나 아니 최저 콜로코 꾸와서 버려서
This is followed by the request to turn the wheel of the Dharma. As we began last week, this involves the request to turn the wheel of Dharma so that the path and cessation too may be realized. With the turning of the wheel of Dharma, for the purpose of achievement of the path, the truth of the path, and the truth of cessation, with the turning of the wheel of the Dharma, the mental afflictions are ultimately eliminated and contentment achieved. When these are the ends that follow from turning the wheel of the Dharma, one then fervently requests that the wheel of Dharma be turned.
오야 다디네 다다 것도 다다 추추주 콜로콜어서 그저 콜로 것도 시제도 아니 산지 좀 된데라 추주 콜로콜어 나서 왔다네 아니 추송과 배대 송여레스 아니 디카레 송여레스나 아니 좀 된데 산지에 심지에 편도 산지에버레 심지에 편도 산지에 인다 심지에 편도 심지에 된 치고래 심지에 된 지야라 된 탈도 뭐 지야라 아니 추주 콜로 마고와 심지에 된 탈치가 뭐야 요 말에 어디네 이나양 아니 산지는 주주의 연구받아 그래서 처음 마송을 되는 주바래 자진이 주바래서는 최고 주주 콜로 나왔으니 아니 구인이 말아봐인다 이제는 주주를 못 마송하다 유디어래서
The actual first instance of the request for the wheel of Dharma to be turned, which occurred during the time of the Buddha, is taken in scripture and commentary as the illustrative example of the purpose of the request. For the Buddha Shakyamuni achieved enlightenment and did so for the well-being of sentient beings. But thereafter, there was no achievement of the well-being of sentient beings without the teaching of the Dharma. Nevertheless, the Buddha remained silent for a time, and it wasn't until the request was made that he turned the wheel of Dharma.
오야 다 이나시 다 아다 타마델라니 다 상박 나로 담불링 되게 다 붙여도 상박차도 상박이 아니 고랑이 좀 되들라 최송으로 나면서는 고랑이 다 위에남에다 요거니 콜로 집동 된바기 아니 세르기 콜로 이제 디퓨는 좀 되들라 최송에 되나야 디퓨 아니 담불링 같은 최주 콜로 나면서 소왔다 야지기 아니 고랑을 요바데 동가리 이기스다 누구 리시고 쓰고 되게 어디 필요 아니 고난이 최다 담불린 것도 심지어는 된 제로지 최주 콜로지 소왔다 아니 신의 최송바 어디들 레송스
And in the end, in the very end of that period of silence, Brahma, who is the overlord of the world as it is, made his petition to the Buddha that the wheel of Dharma be turned. And as he made this petition, he presented 1,000-spoked golden wheel as an offering. And he was accompanied by Indra, who presented a right-turning conch shell. And so these two, for the well-being of sentient beings, requested that the Buddha turn the wheel of Dharma.
맞아 루규 전에도 저거 거래야겠다. 루규 전 빼기 전에도 송바래스. 다 다른 말한 적이 냐면 지도 아니 나 산제로 뭐서 맞아 저거 거로나 소왔다 배기. 그거 선음디 맞아 그 단계요 말해스. 제가 다 맞아 산제다 저 취주 콜로 거야디. 아니 랑이 예외신이 라마 딜렀다는 취주 콜로나 소왔다 보고 요래스. 제가 근데 이 아니 나도 가두이나요? 로메기 라마로 추고 고로치 소마다나 라메 추송나 추로 마부비 예바치네 아니 이제 숨을 놓고요. 로메 취주 코로나 고아수 쇠고로 쇠고로 쏘았다고. 안 답나 라메 다 로마로 취송 고도인데 이제 뒤를 되는데 딱 받친. 아니 취송야 그다음에 레송었어.
Then these are the historical accounts. These are illustrative examples of the purpose of the request. Now, for our purposes in our practice, what we actually do is, confronted with insufficient merit to have actually encountered the Buddha Shakyamuni, we make the same request to the Guru, the Lama. And when the request is made, then alone may a teaching be conferred. Without the request, which would be a respect for the Dharma absent, without such request, the teaching is not conferred. With the request made, then the Guru may review the student, see if the time is appropriate for such an exposition of the Dharma, and then choose to provide a teaching.
아니 셰버 미차오스 야 소아마다나 마추셰 쇼 조고요 말아 또 야소왔다 아니 소왔다 미기야 그게 라마고 왜서래 요새 말에 제바체 왜 땅제체 아니 왜서래나 아니 소왔다 아니 로메 라마기 있나야 로마로 취 때는 콜로 캔서래 캔서 말아 또취 때는 냠슬랑 투서래 투서 말아 취셰 두주른도 믿어 딱바체 아니 들리지 아니 로마도 로마치네 아니 냠내지 제 빼자치 보지 요래서
In the ethical accounts of the Vinaya, this is urged. Do not confer exposition of the Dharma without the initial request. Without the request, it is not permitted. Then when the request is made, however, before the request is made, even, it is the disciple's responsibility to examine the Guru to find whether the Guru is qualified. And then deciding that the Guru is qualified and making the request, then the Guru is in a position to examine the disciple to find out whether the disciple is ready for instruction, whether or not instruction will be beneficial or not, whether or not the disciple is competent to practice or not. And then the Guru may make their decision.
Oh yeah, that Lamata Lomagi and Dushi Yoya. Tedala, I think another that Chubi, Nimbu, but people Chibu Chui Yamen Chidu, and Jamru Godala Lama Japsu Chevo, say that Lamati, down the Chut in the Lama Teres. Oh, till a Chut number Sevala, Rang Lama Tamu 10 Sheba, and 10 Weber, Satan Sang is 10 bed. 10 외바다 10 셰바다 되게 차단 참고했어. 아니 롬 라메기 네 로마라 뒤에 상기됩니다. 차단 딱제 제 어디데 제거를 되는데 제벌하다 로마기 뭐네 이나야 라마 10 세디 맞아 네 말에서 나와직 된 로직 된 아니 가서 지금 총받는 지금 최 거기 라메게 최배 세장 제대 로마게 최니장 제대 말에서 로마기 이나야 최수고 라마데 때도 뭐 겹수 외바 제라 장주 마토지 바도 세능아도 산지지 고와 마토지 바도 아니 땡투야 라마지 되지 챈 땡고 요레스 근데 이두 아니 고 수수고 담보 딱바체 야고체 직된사는 아니 빼마스베 빼 야고체 땡투가 이나 아니 라는다 유엔 타다 깨야기 고도도 마선 다 고치와 도리 되게 변치 뭐 요레스 놓으시노
Such is the relationship and the conception of the relationship between the disciple and the Guru. That in the Mahayana Dharma, in actual practice, opening with refuge is paid first to the Guru. One goes for refuge to the Guru, then the Buddha and the rest. And so the importance of the teacher and the examination of the teacher to find whether the teacher, the Guru, is qualified or not, and then the choice to rely upon the Guru is a significant one. It is significant from the standpoint of the disciple's own examination of the Guru, especially for the nature of the relationship that follows, which is not a relationship of a month or 2 months or 3 months. It isn't to rely and depend upon another, the Guru, for a month or 2 months or 3 months. It is to rely upon the Guru as the perfect refuge until enlightenment is achieved. Thus the importance of the examination of the Guru, thus the importance of the conception of the relationship, this conception of a relationship between the Guru and the disciple. And when this relationship is practiced in this way, it opens the doorway to the emergence and development of all the good qualities of the Guru in the disciple. Without the Guru, the qualities of the Buddha never arise in the disciple. For this reason, then, the Guru is extraordinarily sacred. This is the nature of the relationship between Guru and disciple. It is like that. This relationship is of this sort. And it is shown and attested to in all the accounts of the Mahasiddha and the Pandits and the translators, all of whom strove to rely upon their Gurus with fidelity, and did not rely upon their Gurus in the way in which we rely upon ordinary teachers. They did so with a willingness to sacrifice food, clothing, and their very reputations.
아니 별을 차셔버 있는 멜로디하고 마르바땡 수수 베타스 류롱주 강가 수부터 제가 강을로 담배 라메기 시주신 님을 쉬네 아니 아다던 최취 아니 타만 취취 아니 또 관계별로 유텐데 요레스 만도 배 비만산 깔리 튀네 메버 chen 취취네 또 관계별로 유리요 말해서
In the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment and all the stories in this tradition, such as the story of Naropa's reliance upon his guru Tilopa, a relationship that required of Naropa 18 times making the most difficult of sacrifices, in many cases sacrificing his own life for his guru. This all was involved in the relationship between Naropa and his guru Tilopa. And it was all for the purpose of ultimately receiving instruction from Tilopa that Naropa faced these said 18 hardships involved in his reliance upon Tilopa. And the story of Milarepa's reliance upon Marpa was no different. He served Marpa through great hardship and pain, in the end achieving great realization, and all that he did in service of Marpa was so that Marpa might one day provide instruction in the Dharma, and Milarepa willingly faced any hardship that may entail.
Oh yeah, the you do lama the blomegi dushi is yabu chon yina and pay sit load and dawa 메시지 되게 나라야 아니 랑도 똑바니 아니 산지 고방 토야 배치럽 첨부디 아니 라마딘들 때는 영어를 마도 라마딘들 파샤니 아니 산지 모두 니세비 랑가디 요 말해 손으시
When a disciple relies upon their guru in the proper way, the form that their reliance upon the guru takes when it is correct and constructive, all the realization involved that would take lifetimes may be achieved in a single lifetime, or in a year, or in a month. Such is the blessing that passes through the guru, through proper reliance upon the guru. There is no achievement of the siddhis without the guru.
Oh yeah, start in the Induzamata and the church Kolo cheese, that's what up for using the Karatuaresana, and Karjin Soatabaresana, Maranzo, Semjela, any like Igba, Ju, Mariba, Tribu Dunge, to get to pass, Shobarsia, Dunge, the Vasen, Sovego, Mombati Paseni, and Suzulu Church Kolo. Any that was said the Sharia Tandala. Then teach it a lot and children follow so what up your rest in the Boba, and teaching Tandala so what up your in and it's done beds, catchable in that touch of the nailing the restaurant.
Thus, the request to turn the wheel of the Dharma, the motivation underlying the request is the motivation to dispel the darkness of ignorance that we and all sentient beings find ourselves in, so that non-virtue and avidya, ignorance, that results in discontents and pain may be eliminated. The request is made that the Dharma wheel be turned, thus its importance.
Oh yeah, that is you local parent and the G start in any young element of so tabas, then young element of so tabas said Della, Tanganzola, the Caries Namarando, other Sangela Jarina, young element of sort of Sangela Joina, Sangela Young, Spenata, Sangishum Dente, and a Koran on the chop, 2 good number Gemini, and it dig on a Tushi Lungu, Lungure, and it did the dog Tamdo, Toku Tamjik thought. So the conduct to the Tawadi and Chugu, Kusum yourself, Kusum Nane, Tandangadola, same jig, Tundula, same jig, 20 Sidula, to good number 10, Chogu, to good number 10, or Villa, and young element of so whatever thing, Shugu Yores. That young element of so whatever saying, told the young element, David, Comba, she, Susula, young element, them we are around you by Yina Young, and it. That is forget young relative, suit them on your Tigiti, any Matema, Temo, Mutun Shuyak Chitola, 10 rig, tree, top into the sugar, the little dollar, and so what up your response.
These then are the benefits of making the request that the wheel of Dharma be turned. Now moving on to the request that the teacher not pass into nirvana. This request is made as it is to the supreme Nirmanakaya form of the Buddha, as the basis of the supreme Nirmanakaya form of the Buddha, the Sambhogakaya, emanates Nirmanakaya Buddhas. And then the very taproot, the origin of the Sambhogakaya itself is the Dharmakaya. For the purpose of sentient life, the Dharmakaya emanates the Sambhogakaya, and the Sambhogakaya emanates Supreme Nirmanakaya form. And in this, there is no conclusion of the intention and activity to carry out the well-being of sentient life. The power to continuously do so is present, yet the appearance of the conclusion of the intention of a given Nirmanakaya form Buddha is shown, and the request is made to such an individual that that appearance not be shown at just this moment, and that request is an auspicious truth of suchness.
딱 한도 된다 도도 산다 산이 좀 되는 양은 소화다 버려. 그래서 다 중국이 같이 가서 거기 당고대 나로 되는 것은 축으로 와. 축국이 다 sem지기 된제버로 유치해 요말. 산지기 틀려를 유치하다 sem지기 된제버로 유치해서 되지단데 요말에서 가도 이내 고랑 sem지기 된제버 두주 딜 말해서 되는데 두주 요말에서 직제 다 롱고디야 베타 투코와 치세 심제 탐제 사마게 이파돌라 아니 다 주마송와다 심제기 별마츠게 두요 말레스 니티소 다 초고 두고디 아니 심제 수수고 두제 된다라 아니 고 초고 두고 넘바 템바 인자 두제 조두디 아니 양코랑 두제 사와다는데 전부리 현달 파심제기 된체 치돌 전부디 딜라 아니 냥을 되고 고바테 아니 전부리 심발 심제기 된체야 된데 이디 아니 맞다 대 파데버들 아니 치돌라니 베 군양을 마데 양을 그 마데를 주로지 어디서 왔다고 요레스 근데 소왔다고 고바디 가르스나 아니 도와 베다 마리베 미 당마투니 최주 콜마투니 들돌아 아니 최주 콜로 무튼 코로나 사 주어디 잡고 요레스 디치돌아니 주로나 소왔다고 요레스 아니 소왔다발 되네 아니야 그때는 슈바데 때문에 중이 있던데 영화에 릴리치도 좋았다고 그래서
Involved in the request not to pass into nirvana is an understanding that at the heart of the Nirmanakaya, within the Sambhogakaya, is the Dharmakaya, and that within the Dharmakaya, the activities, the enlightening activities of the Buddhas, the well-being of sentient life carried on continuously, is never anywhere interrupted. It's constant. It would never be accurate to say that here it has ceased and here it has resumed. So too in the Sambhogakaya form, everywhere and at all times until cyclic existence is empty entirely of sentient beings, the Sambhogakaya is active in the enlightening activities of the Buddhas. However, in the form taken by the Supreme Nirmanakaya, which is adopted for the purpose of pacifying disciples to be tamed, there may be the appearance of the exhaustion of a certain group of disciples, requirements to address a new and other group of disciples that may be elsewhere. And thus the Nirmanakaya form shows the appearance of passing into nirvana. And it is only a request made to the Nirmanakaya Buddha that for the sake of those who are blind, who are unable to open their eyes, the Nirmanakaya form remain. And the request has the efficacy of the utterance imbued with the suchness of that which is auspicious.
Oh yeah, that is the element of whatever is on that yala troops on that yala jubadi and more yala some more yala delata. The Chirmo subject Chicago and the subject Mango your house. Chazanda they do more yala desert south cousin. You see Kadil Botadi. In a heather, Quincy, this, Yawatagi, Sabakang. Then it's Simjin Tamji to me, Tamji sell shows nowadays. Cheers. More cheers about Chagi or Esmos.
With the request not to pass into nirvana, the sixth branch of the seven branch offering is complete. And so we move to the seventh, which is offering or dedication. The seventh verse on page 48 reads, through these actions now performed and all the virtues I have gained, may all the pain of every living being be wholly scattered and destroyed. And this is a general dedication.
Oh, yeah, that more singing and catching bush. That is more singing the mena. Yes, the Zosan do more singing the mena, and give a Kazu Chebati, and Kaji Sanji Koban Tobe regular, go to Mare, Sedan did Toyala, more the Medumeruma, more Digitopia, or Todan Gurgu Yores. Sedan more the Sheda catching bush. There's more.
A dedication is critical, for without the dedication of the virtuous route to the achievement of supreme enlightenment, that virtuous route, the root of one's virtues, are lost and cannot become cause for the achievement of supreme and perfect enlightenment. So it is that dedication is so critical.
Oh, that more than Melum Singo, more than Melum is that you part of Yimbala. And this Keberchiores. Carisna, more Melum singing more. More the Melum Chitats and also Melum the Chito set. More the Chicago chat also said more all Melum Yungur. Melum no more Yungumare, or the big Kebers of Digi Hapo lessons.
A dedication and a prayer are often, for our purposes, more or less the same, but they are actually different in that a dedication is a particular form that prayer takes. Prayer is more general. A dedication must necessarily be a prayer, but not every prayer is necessarily a dedication.
More singing. And this is chorus, not more singing Tombojang Yaman, Gyodo, Chijochik. Yaman Rangi Chibato, Tango, Yaman Rangi stuck and Sonam Sa, Saki Kari Yoga Inaya, or the Ani Sagi Kovato, Regular Tojo, Senjing, Digi on show, or the Dela Moa Chena, that Monum de Moa Resons.
So what sort of a thing then is a dedication? A dedication will involve merit that has been accumulated, or a particular practice such as generosity that has occurred, or an accumulation of other virtues. And these are redirected again to the achievement of Buddhahood, or to lasting contentment for all sentient beings. Directed in this way, deliberately, they are a dedication.
Oh, yeah, that is more than Gyotan, they can never. Anyway, Sanjay Koban Toba show, Tarba Toba show, and it's in the Digi Yon show, Mala, Maki Yon show, Mala Chiki Toba show, the Libanum Japana, the Manum, the more Maresons.
Without virtue accumulated, a particular practice accomplished, merit stored up, when one wishes for Buddhahood, wishes for liberation, wishes may I be freed from my pains, wishes may sentient beings find lasting contentment. When there is no content that was the very practice, the store of virtue, the store of merit that is directed to those ends, absent those, this is a prayer and not a dedication.
Oh, yeah, not the Nasa Mayan show, I did with Dewion show. I didn't Mala Chigu Rava shows, Melon Javin, the Melon Rest in a more Mares.
So may I be free from illness. May I and others find happiness. May I find wealth. These are all mere prayers.
Oh, yeah, 我等到那么一个切本去，我的这些年的好过，这是第一次开全部起来是。但等到我写的，可是我写过了，是我是，但是我是对，我谈到的可能我个有的是呢，讲了养了，对有了养了对，就养了对的前辈的给我的，安尼被动员写个动员写为丢了多少小说，我这个多，但是我等到那么一个差个要的什么，那个这个可能这些叫么？
So we see this difference between dedication and prayer, and it's an important difference. Dedication is important, particularly here where dedication occurs, because the preceding 6 branches of practice have accumulated a store of virtue that may be directed to the elimination of pain and sorrow experienced by sentient beings. And so it is then that this 7th verse is a dedication, and it is too a prayer.
Oh yeah, that is the shadow. Jeza, you do some of that and the Mulum sleeping. Some Mulums members do same now. Some Lotan paid. Then this Chua show, then this Yuan show, then this Toba show, seminar member, seminar Samba on Chamber Terra. Lums is about member, seminar, Tingo de Kanama Dubala, Mulums, or Pevitsin and the religious.
As for a prayer involves these 2 components. First, the mental intention, an aspiration, and a thought, may this come to pass. May this be achieved. It is a prospect that occurs to the mind, and then when it is uttered, when it is vocalized, the vocalization of that intention makes for the prayer.
Oh yeah, the little Tanda the Junju, the more Tamu, the more Tamu, the Jirmo, say that subject Jirmo, says the more digita, Karichigo resna. Ta Yala du, Ta Tamu, Yala du, Tamu Dimata, Tamu Chats Yala, Dene Chibe Yala, Dene da Digwasha Yala, Dene that Digwasha Jesuit Yala. Ani dine diola karati wa chugo ko kuus yala che. Ani digala nyangala medo so de yala ngowe yala so da yala dundi yala da dundi chanju ku sim ke yu yala dundi chebala tenes ani sape kyawas la wo che tambu ni de.
In the Bodhicharya Avatara's dedication, in the 7th verse of the chapter, we find the general dedication. It is the general dedication of the very same 7-branch offering of first prostration, 2nd offering, 3rd confession, 4th rejoicing, 5th requesting the turning of the wheel, 6th requesting the Guru not pass into nirvana, and 7th dedication itself. These 7 branches that are caused to the development of the mind of the awakening is the very virtue accumulated for dedicating.
Oh yeah, ta yala du de yala tada yala du de yala du changwe go ne. Ani yala duga yago changwa majena. Ani ya chanju sem gyula kewe gyu. Kulu sogo chagi yo mares. Yala duga changwa yina. Ani chanju sem gyula kewe gyu. Ani medu merunga chagi yo re.
Where the 7 branches are complete, then there you have the fully qualified cause for Bodhicitta in its development. Where anyone is absent, where all 7 are not complete, then the fully qualified cause of enlightenment isn't present. So the 7 branches, that they all be present, is an indispensable factor in the development of the mind of enlightenment.
Oh yes, that and you do that young lad do you go in that is so saba pig that your number your saba is young lad do you go in that so saba pig and the cultures that simje tamji ki dunge tamji seva shows that the chirsheba do and that so karsan do sanji go want to be gulam oasigar that semje 탐지 동해 semje 탐지 동해 탐지 세월 쇼 to 그 동해 타다 아니 동해 다 간다를 거기 semje 탐지 대화를 거둬야 동해의 제투야게 아니 된적이 대화를 거둬가 쇼 세면은 디 아니 질 semje 탐지게 된도 아니 뭐 제가 인상 아니 동해 뭐 질체가 생긴데 자기 열에서 놓지
With the presence of the 7 branches, virtue and the accumulation of merit has been accumulated so that it may be dedicated generally. And this is a feature of the general dedication through these actions now performed.
Oh, yeah.
Then that these actions now performed, this accumulation, become cause for the achievement of complete and perfect enlightenment, so that they become cause for the final dispelling of all sorrows and pains of sentient beings, so that they be cause for lasting contentment for all sentient beings. Because all sentient beings are the objective, their contentment and the elimination of their suffering is the objective. As it says, may all the pain of every sentient being be wholly scattered and destroyed. This too makes for the general dedication.
Oh, yeah. That in now that chill doing sell chido malum jabadi, and that man to Sanji Jokovan Tove Chidola, and more chabati. Yan Tinashi Tajin Dinnerta, Poke Digi Tunget, Koeg, Tunget Tamji Seve, and Rangita Sanji Jokovan Tove Gula Maimbaje, and Tarba Tove Gula Chido Moa Yore. And Dinane Tanda to Tunget Tamji Seva shows it, to Yasong Tunget Tamji, and Seva shows. Or the more the Chirag more young dinner one of the young response.
However,
And the Dumet of the several short size door, no automatic dinner.
that's the yes on like
In some draw, in Songi, Dumet of the several shorts, or more cheap, but in some Dumet of the several short. And in that correct Dumet of the several shorts, or the language done without assuming what more done without assuming. 어디 숨바지 해서
이제 안에 생신 탐지에
탐지 동네를 쳐왔을 때 좀 산지 고방토 길러모 와
라라라
사티네 라니 코에게 다 들려요 코에 동네 탐지 세워 줬으면 뭐지 여러와 아니면 송을 동네 탐지 세워 줬으면 뭐지 여러와 어딘데 뭐 송거지 제가 뭐 어딘데 여러스 지르모 어디 산지 고방토로 좀 뭐하더라.
Now, in the general dedication, the general dedication is the intention to, for the accumulated merit to, because for the elimination of all sentient beings suffering. And that is to the dedication of those very virtues to the achievement of Buddhahood. This general dedication includes the particular dedications too, which are the dedication that one's suffering in cyclic existence be eliminated, and also that the suffering of the lower realms be eliminated. these fall into the general dedication as well.
뭐야, 다 상당 뭐 쇼세 등도 칸을 깨게고 좀 치고 아니 두도 떨면은 라고도 잘뭐 제바다 레데 이네 단다 뭐 세디다 뭐 냐면디 칸데질 거서 뭐 가지 면은 세도 뭐 봐도 센 템바스 라인 봐도다 제가 센나는 다 수수고 알아 너무 퇴중 비체라 퇴퇴 아무 퇴퇴 되는데 야 복부 다 고차야 또 전부 차야라 가르고선 삼중고 삼학하고 삼중고 시라 최중고 시라도 삼중 시라도 좋아하잖아 최중 시라 하는데 잘 말와 아 근데 삼중 시라도 이제 삼중 시라도 다 최중 시라 최중고 되는데 삼중고 야야랑 아니 되게 최중고 시라 또 전부 차다 근데 삼중고 시라 그냥 또 친도 좋아라 최중당 삼중이 되게 된 삼베디 랑기 쓰면 좋자 아니 쓰면 잘은 공 아니 곰도 또 줄래 끼디 아니 곰중 시럽 찍으러 왔어 곰중 시럽 끼디 아니 다지 삼중 시럽도 또다 된거 이거 차버려 와 되게 제바들 아니 도섬 곰숨 야마 제바 냠도 떠랑게 도섬 고 퇴베 되는 삼로 땅 냠랑 대마 주어서 있지 근데 마집에 되는데 랑 쓰면 잘 곰제 줄어 또 왔지 아니 곰중이 왔지 어떻게 채소나 뭐 왔으니 자기 뭐 왔으니 자기 어렸어 오늘 뭐 어떤 뭐 이래서 그래서 보통 싫어 양식하나 저러와 어디다 뭐 봐서 대다 그거 뭐 쇼도 치고라 되는 이거면 어떻게 뭐요 말와 어디데 레스 뭐 봤다 뭐 왔어 되는데 이제 삼로 땅 어디서
the expression, may it come to pass, may sentient being sufferings be dispelled, may liberation be achieved, and the rest are the verbal expression of a prayer that is a prayer by virtue of the mental activity involved, more than any verbal expression. For a prayer is a prayer actually, and the dedication is a dedication actually, where the mental activity that begins with attending to the meaning of a Dharma exposition and finding a meaning, and then reflecting on the meaning so that one's very practice of study, the listening to the Dharma, grows in its efficacy such that one listens and discerns the meaning. And then after listening and discerning the meaning, one may apply the meaning to one's experience through meditation. And that process may give rise to the wisdom of meditation, such that the wisdom of meditation reinforces the wisdom of contemplation, which thereby reinforces the very wisdom of listening, such that this is an ongoing and simultaneous practice of implementing the wisdom of meditation, contemplation, and listening. And this, in fact, the practice of wisdom is dedication and is prayer.
다 된다도 아주 물론 칸을 잡아지 이거 쳐봐쇼 제봐쇼세 내가 내가 춘주 아니 지금 거기 제다 농교도다 아니 농교도도 수 내고 용해도도 동네 세버도 되는데 춘주 물론 이제는 조식이 와서 얘네 단도 춘주는 셰베기 당아도 땡 대화 동네 탐지 세와 대화 탐지 그거 세야겠다 뒤도 아니 요즘 고송비 그 냠도 린 냠내 맞잖아 아니 덕투고 말와 제가 덕투고 매번 이들 들었다 표선 본송이 배 냠내 버려서 린 아니 뭐하지 뭐는 제가 있나 아니 다 된된 이거 차를 해서
May such and such come to pass, may it be. And the rest of the verbal expressions may carry a little bit of weight and be effective for small temporary wishes for personal gain, for some wealth, for some temporary contentments. But for the lasting contentment of the state of Buddhahood, for the thoroughgoing eradication of sorrows for all sentient beings, this requires the dedication and prayer that is the unification of the practice of wisdom, of listening, contemplation, and meditation, where the wisdom of listening, contemplation, and meditation are drawn together as a single force of wisdom. This is dedication and prayer.
Oya, that big Tanda was there, did Dunga Tamji Shiver shows, had it that Dunga Kandiju and did Tamji part several shows. That is about Tanda Doskona, and Dunga Tamji Seven, Kovan, Sangi Kovan, Sangi Kovan, two shows more of a that name you ordered that Chidad, Nanduma, more Chevasta. Because Nebe to know was some of it. Nebe to know subject Kurana, Nebe to know was your. Sedata, Nebe to know was said because not that. Never do Nelia Tariagi, Tabitan, more Chiagi, and Tishiga, we are responsible.
May all the pain of every living being be wholly scattered and destroyed. This is the actual general dedication. It is a dedication to the elimination of all suffering. So in short, the elimination of all suffering is the achievement of Buddhahood for all. Then the verses concern themselves with particular, increasingly specific forms of dedication. What follows next in verse 8, following the outline, is a dedication to the recovery of health for those who are sick. And thus the 8th verse, for all those ailing in the world, until their every sickness has been healed, may I myself become for them the doctor, nurse, the medicine itself.
Oh, yes, and that's all Koran was that. The one never cheated, do Nensu Juji Parduni. Manda, member, Nidata, he never neo chase. Or that the Molum Chirag Molums called Chirag, Mingdil Chirag Molums Lagores was.
Each of these specific dedications is known as a specific or particular dedication. It is dedicating merit to a specific method for liberating from a given adversity, here illness. And so the verse again, for all those ailing in the world, until their every sickness has been healed, may I myself become for them the doctor, nurse, the medicine itself.
Oh, yeah, that they conduct draw never chisi to the neg around the that Sidama Negela on Lugi ne, that's the Kumbu ne cigarette, and it's semi ni yobare. That the in the Duguru, and the neck and the country, Yaman seminar, Yaman Luginother, that dinner yore. That dinner can sign up in a 2 in others, and the Tishia, your that 2 in others do, when another Tapanado Nedelaya. Any Tugi Wongi, and it's that name to do on the name Manguyo or Zukanga Yorvada. Chedan that draw never chisi to so that Rangi Pena Pumbu Neto Invena, and Amjigi, Shimba Yore, Mashimba Yore, Amjigi, Tuba Yore, Matuba Yore. Oh, the any Penatama to the Chata, Tibata, Lunda, another man with you know the mean tongue they doing the Amjigi, to you got a machine, you got Amjigi, more Mashima, Matuba, their name and word. Oh, the name and word you by you do. And in Ned, there are any that part. So, yeah, Chitula. Any man to Jurvata. Any Tipata, Mangi Combola, man to Jurva. And member Combola, member Juba, Neo Combola, Neo Juba, which is all the day, Molam the Mochi or Resmus.
for all those ailing in the world until their every sickness has been healed. Ailments and sickness, illness is physical and mental. Of course, any form of illness will take one of these forms, an illness of mind or an illness of body. And so these illnesses, these sicknesses described here include both. And we also speak of the illness of the time in the sense of a general or global pandemic. Now, illnesses are of various kinds. Some are treatable, others are not. Some can be diagnosed and others cannot. We have many different illnesses of the bile, phlegm, and other kinds as well. There are many forms of sickness that one recovers, that all recover from their sickness, their illness, through receiving whatever it is they require. This is the dedication. For those who have no medicine, may I become the medicine they need. For those who have none to nurse them to health, may I become they who will nurse them to health. May I become doctor, nurse, and the medicine itself.
Bodhicitta 간다 스스로 전주 셈바도 이만은 나가다 간다 나가서 대칭부시다 여러서 간다 맹 통보도 다 농박하실라 내양다 내배인데 잡신보 연주야니 매 말하는 맹이 배풍 맹 근데 통보 그 강사들도 다 맹이 통보 시와도 나와 용거를 늘로 타를 치도 아니 맹 그때 때문에 누구도 때문에 영화 찍도 몰람 잡았지 아니 농박하실라 맹다 좋아 찾아 유나야 맹배 풍어요 대절로 아니 배 맹배게 통보 매봐 몰람 것도 간다 가와 랑게 배 간데 지역구 있는 지역투가 이거 멤버 이거 근데 몰람 자 아니 대다 멤버도 맹이 유나야 아니 내요 홍보요 내요 홍보도 내요 그 간다 내배 내요 배 아니 시시 잠바 가 잠바 쌤짱 근데 이거부터 배 용어 용어야 치도라니 간데 내배게 내 윤도 써봐 써투가 윤도 써봐 어디데 용어야 치도라니 뭐는 자고 치라 개치 뭐 여러 손으로서
This particular form of dedication is important where there are epidemics in certain places, where there is a pandemic, and in a given place, there is no medicine available. People die because there is no medicine available. Others become sick because they have nothing to treat the illness with. And realizing this, the dedication is made of merit to bringing treatment and medicine to those who require it. And there are other places where there are medicines and treatments available, yet there are no trained physicians. There's a shortage of the physicians and the doctors who would practice the treatment. And so that there be doctors and physicians where they are needed, this dedication is made. And elsewhere, there is medicine and there are doctors, but there's a shortage of nurses. And those nurses are those who are soft-spoken and well-trained, and that there be these soft-spoken, well-trained nurses and the doctors required, and the medicine too, this dedication is made.
뭐야 나가고 사무차 빌레바 10땅이나 하다 나도 시대야디 나가서 고유유죠 답변은 미지소도 어떤 옆투의 유적이 나서 사무도 땅 빼로 송구도 왔어 나가서 sem진 조어를 주고 나서 사무 땅아 이나 맹이 pomba 맹배 pomba 내이 pomba 다 14부 좀 들어다 아니 되는 말 이다다면 손들어다 사무 땅나 다 가서 순간에 pomba도 차리요 제가 들어야 아니 민이 아니 맨다 맨도 마고 맨배 마고 내고 마고 요 딜리버는 게 요래서
And if we were to give this even more thought, we will attain an even greater reach beyond human society and recognize that to be destitute of medicine, of doctors, of nurses, is the very state of all animals and of beings in the Preta realms and in the hell realms. They are all destitute of physicians and medicine and nurses. This dedication applies to them as well, but to embrace them too in the great reach of this dedication is a practice of an adept, really. This verse is followed by verse 9, dedication for dispelling hunger and thirst. Verse 9 reads, raining down a flood of food and drink, may I dispel the ills of thirst and famine, and in the eons marked by scarcity and want, may I myself appear as drink and sustenance. And so here in verse 9 is another particular or specific dedication. The verse is a dedication for the elimination of thirst and famine, that elimination of thirst and famine may come without break, continuously, in a heavy downpour, the full and spontaneous fulfillment and quenching of all thirst and feeding of all those hungry. This is the dedication in verse 9. And in the eons marked by scarcity and want, may I myself appear as drink and sustenance. This eon marked by scarcity and want is a known and named eon, where the eon of the appearance of the Buddha was the eon in which lives were of roughly 100 years in length. But then as time passes after the passing of the Buddha, the lifespan shortens, and the time comes when the life expectancy is 30 years, and this is the dawning of the eon marked by scarcity and want. Now, when this time comes, all of those who will face thirst and famine, that there be some protection afforded them from that thirst and famine. The dedication here is made that I myself appear as drink and sustenance.
무기 개발도 무기 개발 타래가 말람 자야 수영이 개발을 타래가 말람 자야 어떤 무슨 말도 내가 뭐 여래서
There are known and named eons of many sorts, the eon of weapons and of famine and of sickness. And in each of these particular eons, liberation from that adversity special to that eon, in the eon of illness, liberation from or freedom from that sickness. In the eon of famine, freedom from that famine. In the time of weapons, protection from weapons. These are the various sorts of dedication prayers uttered by the Bodhisattvas.
나랑도 지도나 셀스 좀 자체모제 춘주지는 다고 제 이야기도 듣나시 무기 개발도 루 도도지 있나요 셀도 찍고 차야 주주들이 샤라야 요레스 일단 된대기 무기 개발도 아닌 거 수도 초고 손이 초고 다 쳐야 세고 셀아니 무기를 lep사서 세요 말해서 다 셀을 빼 셀나 진짜 자체모제 거 사고야 된대기 용주선 무기 개발 얘기요 아니도 땀 무기 갑자기 좀마다 배짜라 거기 좀 이be 잘라 진주지마다 매나야 아니 배송 배는 제 두고래니 그 두고래니 네 배자치 뭐전 송겹치는 아니 나서 쳐야 된다 사고야 되게 아니 투마기 체점 배다 체점 배단 되는 것이 좀 사고야 되지 아니 그게 먼저 샘진 시교 루고 열와 루고도 로마고지 안에 까면 까보 이겨들 루고가 무슨 샘진 시교 루고 로마고지교도 안에 수도 쳐야 된다 죽고 아니 뒤통 쳐봐야 어디에 목이 깨워는데 샤라요 왔어 어디 누가 들었다 아니 배 전주쌤 단단한 말은 좀 전주된데 용 빼고 되게 목이 깨워 마요하셔 목이 깨워를 되는 컨트롤 세다 뚱이 소토와 되게 용할 말은 깨고 근데 몸을 제 뭐도 말로 제하게 난 전주선 왜냐면 시기 오래서
The time of famine itself is described in terms of the units of measure during that time of famine. Now, we at this time measure in kilos and the rest, and this is kilos and tons, and the rest are our units of measure as it's a time of relative plenty. But there's a time in the era of famine, a time of the unit of measure of the needle, when food is so scarce that now gold is most precious. But in the time of famine, a single grain, a wheat grain, a grain of rice, will be as valuable as its equivalent in the weight of gold. And then it's measured out with needles. And so is there a time in the era of famine when we measure with small spoons, and a time too when the desiccated bones of dead animals are dug out and preserved, for there is only scarcity and no abundance. And so at a time like this, a time of famine, the Bodhisattvas speak these aspirational prayers and dedications that sentient beings be protected from all of this hardship in the era of famine.
딱 간단한 거고. 딱 추억 삼로 땅을 추억은 냐면은 주잖아. 아니 너도 그 추억이 냐면 최고의 동행세. 여어 주비에. 동해 세월라 동해 모션 오세다 동해 모션 가다 가서 동해 됐다 동해디 안다 모르 제가 주도인데 아니 어디다 주가 마 동해 쌤나는 전투고 좋나 아니 쌤 동해디 모셔버지 아니 쌤을 챔버지 이원게 동해들 세야게 탑이 아직 너는 게야 아니 저 최고야 너도 강한 단단히 자리 제바이나 제마 신했음제 담질라야 지금 패마 용거를 다 되네 수수기 냠내 세다 때마 용 어디를 요 제가 근데 편도시 뭐래스 그다음 어디 냠내 주 단단히 지기 지냈다 때 편도시 뭐래스 드린 대샤 저를 지기니 소
The application to practice is the exposure and growing familiarity with forms of suffering and the use of this awareness of the various forms suffering takes to cause a strong impulse to eliminate suffering and to bring about contentment where there would be suffering, so that the mind naturally inclines and returns to an impulse to eliminate suffering, anticipate where it is, recall its forms, and apply itself to methods for dispelling and eliminating that suffering where it's anticipated. And these are dedication prayers. These take form of dedication prayers. Now, when one informs their dedication prayer in this way, with these anticipated forms of suffering and these methods for their elimination, then one's practice too becomes very well exercised and very well developed. So this is a form practice may take, and we'll conclude here for today and begin with our Q&A.
뭐야는 당 저지는도 대체가 있나야 그래서 가세요 그래다 아니 가보세요 현도 요즘 전이건 저희는 저 것도
So I think if we do engage in Q&A, then things grow clearer and it ends up being beneficial. So if you have any questions, sure.
야 이거 tamam
Thank you, Geshe-la. Okay. Earlier, there was a discussion about the importance of the request to turn the wheel of Dharma. And so as students, or as a student, I find that there are occasions where it would be nice to bring up something interesting about the Dharma amongst non-Dharma students. So in that case, is it then advised to not discuss it because of this, you're not being asked and I'm not even a teacher, so that's the question.
Also, then shogi korlo kor shube kuwade la di dandrewe samachi korson it's samsam la ane chula deba making denzogi dang nyamdo de zambala 소소기 초 된제 아니 체나 아니 펜사레 아니 삼바티 중도아 내가 아니 초 체게 말에 라마 말에 아니 콘솔라야 아니 초라데 데바 메이킹 아레 아니 디마세 콘솔기 아니 초기 콜로 코로나 된제 아니 순요 말어 데드 초 단저베 케자 마시나 야그레 시나 야그레 간지
오예스 베트 저기 딱는 마 삼었다는 저거저래 저거 싫어 개침보레스 직접 나는 네 가르스나다 그 유명한 단단 가지고 최주 콜로콜 이 세디 가지고 라마다 로마 체니 최 쉬야가 또 냠네 지단 빌렸다는 최 셰바로 와서 봐봐 제가 그 유명한 지도 나와 밀 랍제게 아이거래 아니 수수 꼭 패매지도 람되체 요래 인수 이지 직직이네 지도나 밀 팽이를 수수로 팽이로 와 이네 다단한 아주 라마다 로마도 라마는 깨서 체스도 내게 라마니 지니 대한 라마 대한 지어와 어 딜라탕도 그 개침부지 지외이나 아니 수수가 다 로동라모 사회 기업고라기 연대인데 로직 이마직 토비하게 되게 게임과 차진 여바 인들 그 되게 잘 개침부이 버듯이 얘기 요래서 막 여기서 썰었습니다.
This is a very valuable question. It's a question too that comes from giving some thought to your actual undertakings yourself, and so it's very valuable. The importance, the special importance of the request to turn the wheel of Dharma applies particularly to the relationship that is explicitly between, or will explicitly be between a guru and their disciple. This is where it applies. Now, ordinarily, out in society, generally, where people give advice, provide guidance, there, any word of the Dharma that's provided as guidance will be beneficial to another, and will also be beneficial to the person who provides that guidance. It's only when the formal relationship of great gravity between a guru and their disciple, in which the guru is taking on a responsibility and a commitment to be the very basis upon which a disciple, through concentrated practice, may realize realizations of that would take a prolonged period in a short time. It is there that the request must be made. It is there where this is considered so indispensable, the request. Now, did that clarify? Did that answer your question?
저랑 밀랍제 접사라는 지미지 잡로시스 미지기 셈나 강에 여바 상마양 개체보래 미지기 랑가도서 야고지라나양 백개체보래 롭든 세대 아니 배창구 셈바게 냠는 준지 체체랑 자기 요래서
Where you have advice to give that advice. It will benefit another. It will help to alleviate their mental pain. And so you may, given the advice that you have to give, it is really the practice of the Bodhisattva to do so.
맞아 근데 대진에서 차지나 어제 저랑 근데 저 당부 때문에 비가 나는 나도 열었어. 맞아 대용도 오늘서는 아주 최진이도 지나 당부 최송으로 소화도 민제 그 근데 저도 상도 민제도 비교가 갈성하던 거랑 또 최기 랍제도 랑가도 근데 지난 약고 열어. 아니 되게 런던 치야 당 아니 지 라마들의 최 년바 있는지만 뭐뭐 최 많이 거라 라마 띠즈 가리스 된 거사래. 아니 라마 때는 가르치고 살았다. 이게 희한하게 된다는 얘기다. 그런데 랍자들이 막 들리서도 최근에 지기 어렸어. 애들이 아니 결혼서 더 성질로 차세가 되니 난 되게 어렸다. 나 결혼지 차들이 차세서 된 차들 얘기를 라바요. 산지 군주 천수야 얘기를 결혼도 봐야지. 차세들이 난 차 타면 지나야 아니 얘기를 라바처럼 라바이지 아니 되게 어렸어. 아니 지게인데 수수 베스트 당원의 섭섭지 때문에 내리지 말한 게 소환을 했는데 예 런드지기 위해서 막내지 처음으로 얘기 배치도 라마이 계속에 로마를 삼는데 돈이 있다고 저기 신기매 시액이 매서 왔습니다.
And this first question of yours applies so well here too. in this here as we gather in a most formal Dharma venue, the gurus will, or rather the disciples will make their formal request that the guru turn the wheel of Dharma, and they'll offer a mandala world to the guru, and then the formal teaching will commence. Here we are in a dialogue for the purposes of orienting ourselves, for the purpose of gaining some guidance as we proceed into formal Dharma venues where we might do just this, make a request and offer a mandala. But here what we're engaged in is an exchange and dialogue. I'm providing a kind of guidance and, as it were. And yes, you have prostrated it as we begin class, and that is okay, because it is to the bhikshu, the person holding the vows, who symbolizes the Buddha, whose training in ethical discipline is the very symbol of the higher training of ethical discipline. And so for that reason, it's appropriate to prostrate, but we don't engage in this relationship with your prostration, with me here imagining myself to be your guru and that you're my disciples. Rather, as I see it, I've volunteered to provide a kind of guidance. So here I provide some instruction and you attend, you listen. And then the practice, to the degree that it gets underway in each of you, is for you to recall again and again what you have heard, the lessons that may be derived from our gathering, and then again and again recalling those when those have been consolidated as a kind of memory, to apply those in such a way through your meditation that you gain experiential confirmation of the lessons drawn from listening. And this is the process that we're engaged in. Now, later in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, there will be many stories, accounts, and descriptions of the arising of realization, the development of realization through proper reliance upon the spiritual mentor. And those will come. Any other questions? If you have another question.
I'm not quite sure which stanza it was relevant for, but Geshe-la used a term. And I think it was to request that the Buddha stay in that passage in Nirvana. The phrase was utterance of the suchness that is auspicious. And what exactly would that be?
Also, then gisi karisa nyangila madevar kuwa. Dela nani gisi digi dunda ani jesi nandu ani sik 식직 아니 중송 식 아니 믹서와 직 중송 덴톡기 틴드기 대신이 야면은 데코너니 야면은 덴드라고 아니 숭송 징기두게 아니 스카리래 그렇죠 덴톡기 아니 텐드기 데코너니 야면은 텐드기 데니
댄들 쳐봐 댄elo 댄들
디라인데
댄데 간도 배낭 간도 두고기 간도디 다다 소왔다베 저러 냥갈에 다워레 삼로 따이기 아니 산제도 저러 냥갈에 맨다르시 소왔다버와 데데 소왔다베 댄데기 투기 또라 댄네 아니 다 간다 냥갈에 맨 거기 냥갈에 만다와 채와다 아니 데데 다 투기 수수로 또버제 데데 치 데데기 아니 누가 요새는 되게 전에 쏘았다가 지켜지지 계셔 어디
라라라라라라 아니 just the young get purity
당아서 거기에 끝나가서 라마 텐슈 피고도 와 텐슈 피는 라마 텐슈 피야 돼 라마 양날에 맞도 굳이 교름 그 대로시 그거 와 백개와 자세 봐도 쇼로 대로 쇼로 와 제가 데데이도 데데기 쏘았다 베기 데데기 누발라 때네 아니 체 바로 요림도 승해야다 아니 양날에 맞다 왔는데 용해 때문에 주의 돈은 뭐는 되고 요래서 어디서 그래서 뭐 라마도 대슈도 와 어디 대슈해야 되다 양날에 마다를 시소하다 보러다 베디 아니 다와 빌라 때네 당 최망부지 때데 둘러 때네 아니 깨고 와 그다음 양날에 맨다 왔는데 때데 주의를 때네 데스쿠즈를 무시해야 아니 거기 양을 맞아 공부 마시고 되게 때 누가 연구를 와 어디에 때문에 또 되게 요게 되게 일단 아니 소화다 비어래서
그래서 덴드기 덴톡 라피오그르베
되돌아는 되로 되돌아는 되게 배투가 되고 덴델루아
데니
덴델루아메 배투라 되네
슬라다 아니 덴드기 데니
데니라네 괜찮지도
그래
저 덴델루아메 배투라 되네
슬라다
덴델루아메 배투라 되네 아니 누가 투바 되게 연구를 와 어디에 용이 없어 디디 소화다 보고 요래서
when performing a long life puja, when requesting that the guru not pass into nirvana, the practice, the long life puja, the prayers involved, establish the very auspicious connection by the force of dependent origination, the truth of dependent origination, the truth of pratitya samutpada. It is by the force of truth of dependent origination that such an auspicious connection is efficacious, that there is a long life practice, that in a long life practice, a request is made that the teacher remain, never to pass away, remain for 1,000 eons. It is by the force of dependent origination.
라마다 로마기 귀시치는 뜻이 약들 아니 라마다 로마기 땐제 귀시 담직 된데 약고 총알라 때네 아니 로메줄라 또봐 로잘게 이모들이 이모지를 깨토야 이와서 거는 땐제 두고 받은 기고와 어디나신 거기에 라마데 꾸제 때야 되라 땐제 두고 받는 근데 꾸제 때문에 우여 어디든지 말은 저기 요래서
in the relationship between guru and disciple, where there is perfect samaya, the commitment between the two is perfect. There, by the force of dependent origination, the realization that would require 100 years may occur in the disciple in one day. So it is by the force of pratitya samutpada, by the force of dependent origination, that long life pujas and the rest have their potency. Any others?
Yeah.
Thank you, Gisela. Whenever I read this chapter, I always have the same question, which is about, for those of us who have capacity to be of benefit to suffering people here and now, and given that there's an infinite amount of work that can be done on behalf of those who suffer here and now, how do we know how to carve out time, how much time to carve out for study, contemplation, meditation, let alone like how to carve out time for sleep or even a vacation sometimes. So this, I know that this chapter is about aspiration towards being able to be sort of this endlessly beneficial. But in the here and now, I think this chapter gets me a little confused about when to, how to prioritize and understand sort of the long game work that we need to do around study, contemplation, meditation.
Oh, there you go. Also, tushije dene leu somebody tadu kadu yenaya kadu tanaya topa chikpan rabo sayong du dire ta simchin thame bayo wa ani 지금 미카시 아이 버차네 마랑이 레게 제발라 때네 아니 미카시 미고 보카시 핑기로 아니 이는디 레게디 파르샤네 소소기 아니 최퇴와다 아니 상보다 고모델라 배전치나 아니 심신 모수 펜도 체와 대 뉴루 땅네 더삼 곰숨 델라니 두저 테스 망와 탕나 간데레 페나디 심신 탐에버 요로 아니 미카시기 아니 디 로바체기 뉴버요로 어디 제자 다디 레디기 닝던데 아니 조던 쪼디 아니 멤버와 예면 듬바 멤버
다디 성이 캐나디 랜디 이 다니 잡아도 어디를 연구해서 장주쌤께 쌈 중고수 종야 냠내 다디 단단도 디 모아도 차기로 와 모아도 차차도 띄워달라 아니 장주쌤 중에 쌈바 종와 상 다디나는 캐나디 랜디기 빠진 얘는 두섬에 지금 두세 아마 딱 간다로 아니 따조 태랑이 간다 마음도 최지단이 따취 당보지 치고 싸나 딱 간디지 치고래 그거 디나 도스kana 들어와 대단 디도 최다 당보지 치나 아니 세디 또고 담소를 담 세디를 담 최지 치토나 따취 당보디 최 당보디 따티네 딩가 주고 다들 뉴버기 단기요 말에 아니 디가 정도 로고 계기요 말에 근데 개인 세트고요 말에 디 인자 땅아도 최 니버지 치고요 이 제약 치도라 아니 지도가 냠도 심네 지도나 아니 갈래 펜버도 두고라기 유모도 세기 동네 세기 펜도 지기치기 두셔 드라이브 아마도 나가 니버지 차디요 레스 데데레 달레 렌디가 다니 렌서라 사이 당도디 뭐 루드 차차는 장주쌤 종아세들 아니 지난 다들 제대로 빠지 렌디나 두선 지금 두선
레요 시바디에
요 시험 말은 누구 뭐 다들 미국들
라 굽달라
서비스 다들 서비스
짱와디 아니
뭐
짱와 로
뭐 루차니
로
뭐 루마다 뭐 데제 차니 아니 이걸 장주 쌤 종원
로
르롱도 삼바 종아세 어디나 렌디기 넣어서 서비스 되게 와도 와도 다들 뭐 와도 서비스 아니 지금 냠술래데 야라고도 로롱도 계속 삼바 종아세 어디는 랜드였어.
Yes. When these verses concerned with dedication are completed, following this section are verses describing the actual training and exercise of the mind of enlightenment. And what your question comes down to is, it seems, that we wonder what is the very best form our practice of the Dharma might take. What is the best shape that Dharma practice actually takes? Considering all these various alternatives, what's the best shape that the Dharma practice might take for us? Now, the very best one is the one that pursues a willing abandonment and sacrifice of clothing, food, and one's very reputation. But we haven't usually the power, the courage, or conditions for the final removal of all that hinders us from doing just that. And so that is the very best shape, the very best form of the practice of the Dharma. Second to that is to be involved in modest social benefit and improvement, to go about making modest improvements, eliminating suffering here and there, contributing to well-being here and there. And so we'll find that your answer two is addressed later in this chapter after we conclude this section on dedication, and we look to the mind of enlightenment and training in it. So that's certainly a condensed answer, but I'll extend it later on when we come to verses related to it.
Yeah, I'm always. Yeah,
Any others?
Yeah.
When you say the abandonment of clothing and food, what specifically do you mean? I mean, you're not referring to being maybe a ascetic, right?
Marhang diyor, right? Marhang diyor. No, that's not.
가르치기를 했으나 새 딜을 시나 처범이니스. 너도세 지도자 매양이 정말 사자고 펜사제 필리다 여러와 딜 안에 셴바시 딜스니 시냐메시 송여레스. 알았어. 셴바시 하고요. 제가 다 셴바시나 최 냠네 지나 가르치고를 저거디 내가서 제가 새 딜을 셴바 맞이스. 새 딜을 시나 So
it's not just that. It's not that. The meaning is there's a proverb where there's the slightest attachment to this life, there is no true practice. This is attributed to Sakya Pandita. He has condensed 4 acquisitivenesses into one for the purpose of elucidating just this, your question. What does practice actually entail? Wherever there's the slightest attachment to this life, definitely absent is practice.
내가 가르치 제는 미쳐 말해.
Wherever one's after personal satisfaction, finding some profit, coming out somewhere ahead, wherever those are found, practice is definitely absent.
예. 다치요 같이 다 교우지 제가 이나서. 교쇼디 제가 이나요. 세치마 미야송도 많이 왔지. 뭐나? 다치 세다 던다 거기 던다 춘주지 중주지 중원에 해서.
However, though it might be seemingly insufficient where one's interest is in one's next life and merely escaping the fate of rebirth in the lower realms, there has happened an adjustment in one's attitude such that there is there the Dharma.
다치네 코아스게 코나 두메지라 이 바통. 다 코아를 내다는 두메마도 매버 시엠베 토네 코아를 탄들 삼바시 깨소나 삼바시 깨를 취 제소나 다치 링즈처래서.
And then where samsara has been unquestionably discovered found out to be suffering through and through, and revulsion for this dissatisfactory state is thoroughgoing, then one has a middling dharma there.
예. 다치네 치 랍치 치고 사나? 아니 랑이 된다. 상무 랑이 대두고 된다. 상무 편에 마당 랑을 땅 신 대와 대모 동네의 제와 제기 치도라 추가리지 제와 있는 리처들 랍들 해서.
And then if one is after the dharma that is best dharma of all dharmas, it is the final disregard for personal ends and personal well-beings and the drawing to the forefront the well-being of others, their contentment, the elimination of their suffering. When the mind is inclined this way and this way alone, then one has developed the attitude of the Dharma that is best of all.
예. 다시 셴바 시생인데 세딜 셴바 직세 코알 셴바 니체 아니 라벨 셴바 숨체 다돈 셴바스가 다 돈수도 같은 시체 숨체 아니 제바소나 제바트바 다트바 제바트바 딜 셴바 시레 셴바 시다 파가네 추 가르쳐봐 이네 아추 제바 어디를 해서.
Now these four acquisitive minds are acquisitiveness towards this life, acquisitiveness in samsara, acquisitiveness towards one's own personal ends, and then the acquisitiveness that is grasping at the self, the Atma. Now with that, does that address some of what you had in mind?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
예. 아니 다른 데서 나오는 게 있어.
So with that, we'll conclude here and recite our closing prayers.
유린다는 꿈이 제가 들어오시면 옆에 유린은 꿈이 제가 들어오시면 지어스.
네, 가르쳐.
유린나?
No.
아니 옆에는
No.
샘나트 옆으로 라고 그랬어.
No.
제가 그냥 옆으로 따뜻하게 가서 샤 아니 뭐는 옆에 하우스.
No. Not that we say that where things drag on too long, there'll be no fond memory.
유린은 꿈이 제가 들어오시면
Consciousness 연결.
유린나?
No.
꿈이 제가 들어오시면
No.
当做的这部更多的做结果呢，当我做结的什么这个所得的这样不能结果了，
Well,
我可是大大成呢也会有了吧，
well,
可是人他呢搞出来的，拍嘛他才多了，
well. And it's the same way. If one waits too long, then the time of harvest comes and passes, and you just fall right into rot.
拍嘛怎么能了不了，这个啥呢？也是他的哦也带的嘛，这生意的，等我那个做主动，我那个做呢，你抢救生意，但是我是抢救生意，状元给人们有的这么大，研究个的，我是现在不要了，现在的人这么大，那个老古龙，抢救个什么老300古龙我都接，反正我是搞到了呀，这个老板给吃多，你这个就是的，那个不对。sem la maji bata lu la mate wa mayo ya ke chedo lo ane molom jaya ta ane chik ta jema yunju nyen de rang pe nyam ne che da temba to yong ya ke de yong sho san de ngom da tebe ko na ni la lu molom sumo je sumo je.
So then as we wrap up these verses on dedication, we come to what the heart of the Bodhicitta Avatara, the description of the very instance of practicing bodhicitta itself. And then we have, as we recite our closing prayers, the Lamrim prayer, the opportunity to dedicate the preliminary practice, that is the intention to engage in the charya, the conduct of the Bodhisattva, that intention to train in the text and in study to that end, and then the actual instances of these particular dedications and all that they entail. And the merit of this, that it may be constructive and dedicated to the highest end, we marshal here as we recite our closing prayers.
Oh yes, it's any huh? And yes, on page no. Rendo bele soni kadar yamba kaje sabande lone mare gidondo namre gyoe Terma sumbe zelo bunwe yang jambe yangi tsewe jeso Teme brahma guzam ge jo nyene kumbe ge na ye jesho Rangi jijin tobe langi Tuda tsewe chave tangi Jove yige amba seje Temba yure thank you Temba lijen choge madya Madya nyamba gyube chode Nije jima ila gyeba Pende teje sewa seba sho Seje yawe menju chile Lendo janju namje pende yang
From my two collections, lasted space that I have amassed from working with Bodhisattva's practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind, wisdom, eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in loving compassion for my life. May I find the best in the paths of the complete teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practice. Using skillful means shown by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of path as I have discerned. May I go with this teaching for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction have not yet spread or unspread have declined, may I offer this treasure of happiness to it all thinking beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteously, and the Buddha seeds be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path of enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings that eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddha. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana of virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity protect them.
Dagi jin sabe yewa te
I dedicate whatever virtues I've ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and the sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losandro shining forever. In the land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful and extending out. Please remain until the place of existence. Just as the brave one Krishna and Samantha realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious thus gone ones of the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva deeds. May the supreme individual that is not understood and may that which is arisen at the village but increase the wonders. Thanks, everybody. See you on Sunday. Good night.
Yeah.